Wednesday night was the first and only vice presidential debate when Mike Iron Fist in a velvet glove Pence squared off against camel face Harris. The Biden campaign was concerned that Kamala was going to catch cooties from Mike Pence, and they wouldn't do the debate unless the candidates were separated by these two gigantic plexiglass shields, which medical experts who are not on the liberal media industrial complex payroll said were entirely symbolic and a joke. And as expected, the debate began with a question about the coronavirus, which Kamala Harris blamed entirely on President Trump and Vice President Pence. And after she got done explaining what her and Joe Biden would do if, God forbid, they win, Mike Pence countered with this.
And under President Trump's leadership, Operation Warp Speed, we believe, will have literally tens of millions of doses of a vaccine before the end of this year. The reality is, when you look at the Biden plan, it reads an awful lot like what President Trump and I and our task force have been doing every step of the way. I mean, quite frankly, when I look at their plan that talks about advancing testing, creating new PPE, developing a vaccine, it looks a little bit like plagiarism, which is something Joe Biden knows a little bit about. And I think the American people know that this is a president who has put the health of America first, and the American people, I believe with my heart, can be proud of the sacrifices they have made. It's saved countless American lives.
Unlike the Trump-Biden debate, there weren't a lot of fireworks. This one was more of a slow burn.
Now, you've refused to answer the question. Joe Biden has refused to answer the question. So I think the American people would really like to know, if Judge Amy Coney Barrett is confirmed to the Supreme Court of the United States, are you and Joe Biden, if somehow you win this election, going to pack the Supreme Court to get your way?
The American people deserve to make the decision about who will be the next president of the United States, and then that person can select who will serve for a lifetime on the highest court of our land. And so Joe and I are very clear. The American people are voting right now, and it should be their decision about who will serve on this most important body for a lifetime.
Thank you, Senator Harris.
People, Susan, are voting right now. They'd like to know if you and Joe Biden are going to pack the Supreme Court if you don't get your way in this nomination.
Let's talk about packing.
You once again gave a non-answer. Joe Biden gave a non-answer.
I'm trying to answer you now.
The American people deserve a straight answer. And if you haven't figured it out yet, the straight answer is they are going to pack the Supreme Court if they somehow win this election.
Packing the Supreme Court, if you haven't been following along, means that instead of just replacing one of the 9 Supreme Court justices as they are needed, they're just going to add a bunch more, liberals of course, in order to offset the conservative majority. Instead of admitting that that's their plan, Kamala says, yeah, I'll talk about packing the court, and then complains that it's, quote, packed with too many white people.
Let's talk about packing the court then. Let's talk about the fact. Yeah, I'm about to. So the Trump-Pence administration has been, because I sit on the Senate Judiciary Committee, Susan, as you mentioned, and I've witnessed the appointments for lifetime appointments to the federal courts, district courts, courts of appeal. People who are purely ideological, people who have been reviewed by legal professional organizations and found to have been not competent, are substandard. And do you know that of the 50 people who President Trump appointed to the Court of Appeals for lifetime appointments, not one is black? This is what they've been doing. You want to talk about packing a court? Let's have that discussion.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Senator.
That's not what packing the court means, Kamala, but your advisors get an A for effort for that clever deflection. Mike Pence also took her to task for repeating Joe Biden's favorite talking point and the liberal media's favorite fake news story about President Trump saying there were very fine people on both sides.
You know, I think this is one of the things that makes people dislike the media so much in this country, Susan, is that you selectively edit, just like Senator Harris did, comments that President Trump and I and others on our side of the aisle make. I mean, Senator Harris conveniently omitted, after the president made comments about people on either side of the debate over monuments, he condemned the KKK, neo-Nazis, and white supremacists, and has done so repeatedly. You're concerned that he doesn't condemn neo-Nazis. President Trump has Jewish grandchildren. His daughter and son-in-law are Jewish. This is a president who respects and cherishes all of the American people.
The Operation Mockingbird assets were not very happy that Mike Pence calmly dismantled Kamala Harris's lies, so they tried to cover it up with more lies.
Because obviously, Mike Pence is a former television commentator, does have a very calm demeanor, but I think a lot of people were noticing some mansplaining going on tonight.
Yes, mansplaining, that's it. Jake Tapeworm had a similar take and claimed that Kamala Harris didn't do very well because she had to hold back and behave herself because she's a woman and didn't want to get criticized for being too mean.
I wonder if a woman candidate feels like she can't push as much or steamroll as much as, say, Mike Pence can, for fear of seeming and offending some segment of the electorate. I'm not saying it should be that way, but I'm wondering if it is that way.
It's not, Jake. She just lost the debate. It's not that hard to figure out. And CBS News couldn't help but admire Mike Pence's style.
But Mike Pence was masterful. You may not agree with anything this administration does, but in terms of his debating style. And I was stunned because I thought that Kamala Harris, the former prosecutor and skilled debater, from many of the primaries, would be able to make sure that it was the Trump record that was on defense. And many times it seemed like Kamala was on defense.
Then there was the part where the moderator expressed her discomfort that President Trump is destined to lose the election, but just won't accept the outcome.
When you talk about accepting the outcome of the election, I must tell you, Senator, your party has spent the last 3.5 years trying to overturn the results of the last election. It's amazing. When Joe Biden was vice president of the United States, the FBI actually spied on President Trump and my campaign. I mean, there were documents released this week that the CIA actually made a referral to the FBI documenting that those allegations were coming from the Hillary Clinton campaign. And of course, we've all seen the avalanche, what you put the country through for the better part of 3 years until it was found that there was no obstruction, no collusion, case closed.
I, for one, sure am looking forward to the Pence administration from 2024 through 2032. And by then, Donald Trump Jr. will be in his mid-50s, and hopefully he'll want to take over from there. And in case you haven't heard, my new book, Hollywood Propaganda, How TV, Movies, and Music Shape Our Culture, is now available. Get it in paperback on Amazon.com or download the ebook from any of the major ebook stores. We didn't make it to #1, but we did make it to #3 on the Amazon bestseller list of all books. And if you want to keep it up there near the top, head on over to Amazon.com or click the link in the description below and check it out.